like my phone. Nothing wrong with that.
I certainly am. Okay. I knew it was something. So about changing this
Like the map. We've always had a tie. I'm not casual. It's anything casual.
Excuse me, that you're not telling them to behave.
Yeah, it's new. New and different. Empty the kettles. I'd like to call to order Schenectady City Council Committee meeting for Monday, June 2nd, 2025. The first committee is Finance. Mr. Mutabaran.
Thank you. I would like to call the Finance Committee to order. And the first item is the annual exterior permit application fee waiver. Since 2018, we have been doing this program to give back to our neighborhoods in terms of encourage them to revitalize the neighborhood and to participate in the exterior work and to enhance their building. Since 2018, we have seen a lot of success in this program. And I have attached some backup documents here. During last budget, we have increased the application fee from $56 to $75. So that's a change there. And we're asking for the same program to roll into 2025. And I'm asking for this program to be from June 16th to September 14th. The reason why, because I missed the last cycle to bring this to the council. And in 2024, we were able to give back to our neighborhood homeowner $13,410. That report is attached to the documents here. So once again, I'm asking for the council favorable consideration so that we continue this program.
So you mentioned earlier that this program was a success. I would say, how would you define success?
Well, in terms of the amount of dollars that people are buying into the program, we looked at the dollar amount. Last year was a small year in terms of it rolling out and some hiccup that we had last year. But overall, you look at the program, they're upward of $20,000 plus each year. So that's their factor in that people are actually buying into the program and doing and pulling permits and taking advantage of this this incentive that we have to offer.
So,
the one change I would like to make on this here is on the back of that.
I follow.
Oh, sorry.
So I don't know if we can recall our conversation last year. A few of my reservations were behind whether this program was an accommodation or is it becoming an expectation? And then if it is something that you plan to outline on an annual basis, my point was in 2024 to build into the budget. I definitely want to hear more of your continued conversation, but I think taking this into consideration with the recent fee increases, I think it sends a mixed message to code enforcement if we're going to raise the fees, but then in our busiest season provide fee reductions. I would be more in tune with hearing this be done in a portion of the year where work isn't traditionally done, but to me, it seems as though we are providing incentives for work that needs to get done. And are we sending the wrong message to the residents, but then also in your spreadsheet, who is benefiting from this program? Because I saw a number of blanks. There were people that were from outside of our community. So again, wanted to make sure that Schenectadians who are fit for the bill, and every year we say that it is a budget crisis. I think this is going to be a challenging year that I'm confident we'll be able to overcome. But sincerely, I know $13,000 to some people might not seem like a lot, but when we get to those budget meetings, every penny adds up. So those are my comments.
Well, I wouldn't say outside of this, anyone who own property in Schenectady, own occupy or rental unit, up to 4 units. We had increased up to 4 units, I think, in the last 2 years. I think so, because of...
No, I think what we did said was 4 units was then commercial, so we kept, brought it down to 3 units.
Yeah, I think so, yeah. So we keep, that's how we end up
3
with 4
units.
units.
It's 3 units and less.
3 units less.
Yes.
Okay. No, I mean, people who are buying into this program is own occupy and rental unit. So you own a property in Schenectady, here's an incentive for you to do something to the, especially your rental property, to make sure that those property are in good standard so that renter can, live in good accommodation.
I think.
No, you.
Okay, so definitely in support of it, and I guess my only question would be, because you were saying like these are owner occupied, so are we looking to maybe change this to where people who have primary residence here in the city take advantage of it, or Mr. Williams, is your point kind of like people that live outside of the city of Schenectady? Like, so if I live in New York City but I own property here, then I'm getting to take advantage of this program, or is that, are we looking to make sure it's just people who have primary residence here?
Well,
right?
we did look at that back then. If we don't want to leave out rental property, because we want to encourage landlord to bring their property up to code, not only in the interior but also the exterior of the property.
Sure.
So that when tenants are living there, they're not living in in a deplorable condition, and buildings that is not up to standard. So that's why we kind of put own occupied and rental property.
I think we should probably look at like how the tenant impacts. I feel like how that can look like as far as like the parameters with it being just if you have this property and you are quote unquote acting as a slumlord, this would be an incentive for you to try to get your property up to so the people that you're renting to aren't living in subpar conditions.
Yeah, kind of, and it encourages people to neighborhood revitalization too. Okay, here is our incentive. We have $75 if this project will go through. Into the next 3 months. This is our incentive giving back to the homeowners so that they can beautify their property. You can scale that, please.
Yeah, I think the time period of June to September is appropriate because that's when most people, because of our seasons here in the Northeast, I mean, that's really the time that people really get to do a lot of work. And I think that the program is a really good one because we want to continue to encourage homeowners and landlords to be keeping their properties in good shape. I think it all adds to the quality of life in the neighborhoods across the city. So I definitely support the program.
Yeah, and we're only waiving the $75 application fee. They still have to pay for the cost of work, that whatever that percentage of increase, 1% or that fixed number. And then they have 12 months. If they were, sometime something happened and they're not completing the work within 12 months, they will have to pull the, renew the permit, and they will have to pay the full fee. So it's not like they will roll over no fee application at that point in time.
But just case in point, I think there's still impacts to staffing. So the work in no way is subsidized. And so that higher volume of work is being processed at a portion of what the fee is designated for that line. So again, I just think it sends a mixed message.
Going back to the 4 units, I just want to touch base back on that. I think it's 3. I can't recall. I think this was changed a couple of years ago.
Yeah. Originally, we said 4, but then we discussed it 4 is commercial, is what we consider commercial at this point. So I see what this says here, but I distinctly remember us moving it down to 3 because then it's not a commercial unit.
I don't have a problem doing that.
It's not mine.
No, I know. So I think maybe, I don't know, maybe Corporation Council can tell us, but should it say 1 to up to 4 instead of 1 to, I guess 1 to 4 is the same as 1 to
3.
1 to 3.
It's 1 to 3.
Bringing it up.
So we need to change that.
Yes, 1.
Yes.
Yes. Any other questions? Go ahead, please.
So because we increased the fees this year, did you have an opportunity to calculate the budgetary impact in terms of what we've done in years past?
Yeah, we try to do that, but we don't know how many people are gonna buy into it. Last year, we had 13,000, the year before, we had 24,000. It's all about buying in, because we don't wanna say, well, we're looking at $25,000, it might not happen. You know, the numbers fluctuate years after years.
And because there's a fee increase, is there any thought towards maybe shortening the length of time? So what was said is that, this is the building period from June to September. However, we're giving them 12 months, so really it extends out past September. So would we want to consider giving them 6 months, and that really makes sure that they have to get the work done? Because I know our standard process is, when they have to pay, they get 12 months.
Yeah.
But in this case, there's no payment. And so can we, shorten that time frame in consideration of our increase in fees?
Yeah, we did have 6 months prior year, but it was changed recently because the city code says clearly say that permit is valid for 12 months and not 6 months.
So even though this is a specialized program,
Yes,
we still have to stick with that?
Yes, I had to change it to 12 months.
Mr. O'Brien, there's no way we can go outside of that?
The trouble is that if it's in the ordinance, and the only way to amend an ordinance is to go through a public hearing and amend all.
Okay.
And this is just a short-term program, so you're doing it by resolution. You're not changing
Okay.
the framework of the parameters.
Right, so we have to go with 12 months.
Yeah, prior years we had it 6 months and then we were told by corporation
Yeah.
council we can't, we need to.
I'm just trying to figure out the budgetary impact, because we did increase the fees.
Go ahead, please.
So my last comment is, again, if the intent is to have this be ongoing, I would actually want to identify like metrics and ensure that we are advertising this to the community if this is truly a benefit. But then also I'd recommend maybe having a rolling average, and then we anticipate that. I wouldn't agree with not budgeting because we don't know how much it'll be. I think it's better to have something that we have designated, just so as we make these considerations in November, it is a better discussion.
I've taken notes here, so we'll discuss that in our budget and to talk to the mayor and the finance staff to incorporate the line. And we can just attach a number, an estimate based on this year's give back. Any other question? So the couple changes, we're going to bring it back down to 3 units. And we have to stick with the 12 months. So I have a motion to move this forward.
So
Second? I'm going to second it. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. The next item is funding support for Belmont Pop Warner program. Mr. Farley.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I brought this to us in our last committee meeting. Belmont Pop Warner football reached out looking for support for funding for their youth programs. Obviously, a strong supporter of all that Belmont has to offer, especially now that I'm hearing about their new steps to be even more inclusive around flag football, including girls. Belmont isn't just a football program, it's definitely a youth mentorship program that serves our community and serves some of our youth that are at the most high-risk youth, and really has been doing this and making this great impact with little to no institutional support. Last we were here at the committee meeting, there were some questions to me, posing me around like, has Belmont went to the school district? They're here to elaborate a little bit more on that, but to my understanding, after speaking with the representative from Belmont, that they do partner with the school district, but the partnership with the school district is the school district has, I think, renovated the field, like $8 million into renovations of the field, and they allow Belmont to the use of that field, as well as when Belmont are doing some of their fundraisers, the school district will use their network to get that information out to the larger community. However, that's been the contribution of the school district. The other question was, again, how they have been surviving thus far, and I think that that's the right word to use, is surviving. Hopefully we can help them thrive through our actions, but it's really been through grassroots efforts, fundraising, even coaches, volunteers, people coming out of their own pocket to make sure that youth have the opportunity to take advantage of this program and all the protective factors that it has to offer. So I do have, you can see my representatives are in the room today. Councilwoman Deturro said that she'd like to hear directly from them, so I thought that was a great idea, and they're here to speak to any questions that council has.
Is there a representative that's here to speak? Mr. Kent?
Can you please come up to the mic?
You can hold it or you can just so we can hear you, okay? All right.
Any questions?
Well, once you those questions are asked.
The way we've been receiving funding as 2017, when I took over as vice president, it's just community. Mohawk Honda, they've been a great lending hand over the years. Other than that, just people, families. Not a lot of huge sponsorships from big corporations. Stewart's was and still does give us hot dogs, ice cream, and juices for our hot dog day, which is our last sign up of the season usually. Other than that, we're making it through. When I first took over in 2017, I sat in a meeting with Coach Congapalo and Mr. George Rose, and my question to them was, after they asked me to be president, I said, how much would it be for the season? At the time, Mr. Powell looked at me and said, probably about $40,000. In that moment, we were $7,000 in the hole as well. We owed for jerseys the year before the banquet. So coming in, it was like, uh-oh, I don't know how we're gonna do it, but if we just put one foot in front of the other, we'll make it happen. So 2025, now I'm standing here in front of you guys. If you'd like to help, we're here. If not, we're gonna make it happen.
My question is, so I appreciate the fact that you guys just survived, and I think that that's a testament to how strong the strength of the program. Nothing lasts this long without institutional support, without having a real impact and people recognizing that. But can you speak a little bit to like what does Belmont mean to the larger community, and especially some of the youth that you guys are serving?
If he's okay with speaking, I would like to hand the mic off to somebody that can tell you exactly how this has affected their life.
Yeah, so I'm Norman Booth. I grew up through Pop Warner, and I've lived in Mount Pleasant my whole life. I'm 21 years old, and I just graduated Utica University. Thank you so much. And that's something that I feel like I can truly say that I would not be where I am today without Belmont Pop Warner. So, as you all know, this is our future. These young men are our future, and they always told me time flies, and I never thought that I'd be thinking about rent and all of this stuff, and these are things that I've told from, he's been like there around my whole life. I grew up with his children, and Belmont Pop Warner gave me something to look forward to after school, gave me a reason to progress in school, because not only was I held to a standard because of my professors, my teachers, I was held to a higher standard because my coaches depend on me. And this gives our youth a purpose. It gives our youth something to keep going, and there's so many things that you can get into that are not positive. Especially in this world, there are so many things that divide us, and football is the one thing that brings us all together. And these children, one day they'll be running the world, and what will they have to look back on in their childhood, and who will they be able to call their brothers? And football and Belmont Pop Warner gives them that. And this is like my greatest memories are from traveling and doing all this with my team, and just all of the stuff that Belmont brings to a young man and now young woman's life, and I'm just extremely grateful that I got to meet some of the greatest people ever, and that doesn't always mean money. That means spirit and soul, and that's what Belmont has always taught, and that's the foundation of this city. I believe in my heart that Belmont Pop Warner is one of the greatest things to ever happen in my life. And I'm very thankful for you guys giving us the opportunity to have a voice, because it's something that we really need in a world like this today. Is we need representation, and Belmont Pop Warner got us to a place where the city is hearing us, and I think that this is very important for us to really not overlook, because when this is all said and done, what will we have? You know, and this is our answer. This is our answer. These youth is our answer. So, you know, this is very important for us to invest in it now before it's too late. And that's all I got. Thank you guys so
I had the pleasure of watching him grow up, watching him lose family members, and having just this program to depend on. Family members being his mother. So,
Any other questions? Go ahead, please.
You mentioned before that you had corporate sponsors. You mentioned one name in particular. So how is that going this year in terms of your corporate sponsors? And the ask, as I understand it, was $47,000? Yes. So the ask is $47,000, which would cover the entire program. Does that include adding young women to it, young girls to it as well? All right. So are you, again, seeking corporate sponsors this year?
that, if you guys were to sponsor us, I would say we would hold off on that until playoff time, because past 2 years, all padded level teams have made the Super Bowl. 3 out of 5 and then 5 out of 7 have won the Super Bowls locally. After that, we got to go to regionals, which is anywhere from Maryland to Jersey to or traveling. After regionals is nationals, which is Florida. Now they just moved it to North Carolina. So getting a team of 35 kids in North Carolina should be fun, to say the least.
So it seems like the ask itself is to fully fund the program to get all of the participants through the season.
Through the local season, the Capital District season.
Right, Capital District season. If you guys keep winning and doing the things that you're doing, then there's more costs that can come after that. So seeking corporate sponsorships and still doing the things that you guys are doing to sustain will still be something that you need to do in order to sustain in case that you guys go on past the season.
Absolutely.
Okay.
And well, the president step in. Sure. My cousin.
So, first of all, I just want to apologize for being late. I got out of work and then I had an issue with the child and stuff like that. So, I was doing a lot. But I just want to say that, like, yes, for corporate sponsorships, we are always seeking funding from any sources that are available, whether it's business sponsorships, whether it's local entities, whether it's fundraising, like we'll get out and we'll do things like we're working on car washes, we've done fishing tournaments, we've done everything, you name it, concession stands, we do raffles, like you name it. And we're always looking for different things. The main thing that we're always trying to help as far as funding is concerned is kids that are less fortunate, that are having a hard time, families that aren't able to actually pay the registration fee. The registration fee is only $200, but it doesn't even cover a fraction of what's really the cost for each child to participate. Helmets alone are $250 a piece. Shoulder pads are about $75. Uniform set is $100. So that's well exceeding what the cost of registration is, which we're intentionally keeping lower than a lot of the other programs in the area and outside of the area in order to accommodate our families, but also there's a lot of financial insecurity around coming through and asking for that type of thing. So if we can open the gates and let people know that we can actually step up and provide that for them, then it's going to allow more kids to come through. And then there's also a lot of kids that come by and then we let them know, like, hey, listen, this is what the registration fee is, and then there's some hesitancy. And then when we try to reach out, but people get weary about asking for things too. And like, we want to be able to provide that for our community. Like, we're serving over 200 kids every single season. Somebody said something about young ladies. We have girls flag football. We have 2 girls flag football teams. We spearheaded it when we first popped off girls flag football in the capital region. We had the first teams. We also just won championship games. Both of our girls just won it this year too. Very successful. We have a whole cheerleading program that's been very successful over the years too. So we're serving over 60 girls too between flag football and cheerleading. So it's not just a boys sport. We have over 200 football players. Like, we're doing a lot with a lot of kids. I see a lot of other youth programs in the city as well, but I challenge any program to say that they have as many kids as we do within the community, and we have a lot more that want to participate, but due to those financial insecurities usually don't. So I just want to be able to present them with the opportunity to do that, and we will continue to seek sources of funding wherever we can. I mean, we've been operating since the 1970s on a shoestring budget. Like, I mean, when I tell you, like, I know coaches that have personally come out of their pocket to pay registration fees for kids. And it's not that we don't care to do that, because we will, and we'll continue to do that. And we'll continue to do whatever we need to do, year in and year out, with or without, financial support from whatever places we need to get it from. But I'm just, it would mean a lot to us, and it would mean a lot to the kids and to the community for you all to, really take this into consideration and do what you can to help our kids out. So we appreciate that.
Go ahead, please.
So this is a question I asked when you weren't here, so I'm going to ask you while you are here. It was spoken to by Mr. Farley, but I'd like to hear it from you. So I firmly believe that we invest in ourselves.
Yes.
I just believe in that. And you ask what you need, but you also give your own personal investment, because people say, hey, we're investing in ourselves. So I just want to know the level of investment from parents, guardians, or whatever, in terms of this program.
Yeah, so our parents are the heart of the program. I mean, you'll see some of our parents are here right now. Not everybody can make it. We have a lot going on because our kids are also involved in different sports and extracurricular activities, and we try to keep them as busy as possible. But like, we're all, even when we're not, we're uncles and we're aunts, and we're family members to kids that are not our kids, right? Like every kid in this room, all the adults have attachments to them. And every adult that's within our program has attachments. They're carpooling. They're covering food and snacks and things like that, or they're getting hotel rooms when we have to go out of town to be able to do that and give kids experiences that they're not normally getting, whether it's in sports or outside of sports. And not only sports, we're encouraging academic success, we're encouraging behavioral success, we're encouraging doing the right thing and being a good person first and foremost and a part of your community. And we try to model those things as well. Like we try to show each other, love and support, and we work through our differences and things like that, and we try to model those consistencies in front of the kids. So, with the parents and the families and the adults that are within the program, they're the heart of the program. They're the reason that we're able to continue, and it's literally been like that since we were kids. Most of the adults that you see in here are a part of this program since we were kids, and there were adults that did those things for us, and that's why we're on the front lines now doing the same things for the kids that we have in our community, because that's what's important to us. So somebody did it for us, we're trying to do it again.
Thank you.
Any other question? Go ahead, please.
Mr. Farley states that he just said, it says, Belmont Pop Warner is high-risk youth. What makes them, I'd like to know exactly what makes them more high-risk than any other youth organization, maybe here in our city or any city.
Yeah.
I could speak to that.
Yeah, so.
Well, I'm asking him at this moment.
I could
You asked why I said
Well,
that,
you
so if you asked why I said that, I
Okay,
can
yeah, so I could tell you, I work in the school district as well. I work at Mount Pleasant
I
Middle
see
School,
that, yeah.
and I've worked in a number of different schools, and I've worked with these kids directly for years now. And I am aware of most of the other programs, but I'm also not entirely aware of what their dynamics are, so I can mostly just speak to our program. But what I can speak to is kids that I know that have been a part of this program that have either stopped being a part of it or moved away or were no longer a part of it. I've seen have issues with, end up getting in trouble with the law. Some of our children have gone on and been murdered, things of that nature, and also they're constantly in dire need. Like, as I work as a community school member or a community school coordinator for Mount Pleasant, I provide resources and connect resources to families in need, things like that. And our families are always on the list. Always. They're struggling with housing, they're struggling with food, they're struggling with a number of different things that are going on. So when we're talking about what makes me know that they're at risk, the data also shows too. We have data that shows what their incomes are in their family households, and they're far below the poverty line on average. So there's a number of different things I can speak to, and the experiences that we've had with the kids that have been would really tug on your heartstrings, if I was to be honest with you, that I don't necessarily care to speak on.
You don't have to,
Yeah.
I'm just saying, I'm sure it overlaps into other areas of youth sports
Yeah.
as well.
And if I could, so just to provide a little, thank you for that, and apply a little more clarity to what I'm saying. One of the reasons why that makes kids that are involved in a program like Belmont higher risk has been the lack of institutional investment in Belmont. So when you say higher risk, that means not higher risk of only some of the things that we talk about, like the incarceration and literal murder and things like that kids have been experiencing, but also they're at a higher risk not to have an exposure to opportunities like traveling and ongoing mentorship and things like that directly, because Belmont has had to operate on that shoestring budget and the community support. So that's why we have an opportunity here to directly impact that by making sure we provide some institutional support.
Absolutely. And, like you said, to be honest with you, like, the main thing is, a lot of the kids that are even at the highest level of risk are the ones that we're missing out on right now, that would love to participate. Like I said, I've worked in a school, I've worked in elementary school, middle school. Kids are telling me all the time they want to play. And then when I reach out to parents and a conversation is even mentioned about there's a registration or a cost associated with it, the conversation stops. And it's not through the desire of the kid falling off. The kid wants to play. And oftentimes the parent wants them to play. But the means aren't there, and that just makes it difficult. And and my board could get frustrated at me at times because we have these conversations. I never turn a kid away for money. That's 100% I don't. I won't. We won't. We will do whatever we have to do to make sure that a kid is going to play, whether they have the money or not. But there also takes a certain level of parent follow through that was in the system for us to get them actually registered and get their paperwork in and everything like that. And sometimes that conversation is a standstill when money is brought up. So.
I have a question for you. Are you aware of, we have a CDBG program. Are you aware of that? The yearly CDBG program?
You said CDBG?
CDBG, Community Development Block Grant.
I'm not familiar with that, no.
Maybe we can put them in contact with Ms. Carver to see about, something down the line.
Certainly, I think
to become permanent in the future.
Thank you for raising that. I think that's important that, yes, we can help them moving forward to go through that process. I don't think that it will be either or, though. I want to be clear that we still have an opportunity to support them now and then looking to the future. I think Ms. Patrick brought up a good point. Our last committee meeting was like, in the future, how do we operationalize this so much so that it might not just be one or two youth agencies looking out. I think that I welcome us to revisit that process as a council. However, the ask right now is on the table, and these young people need our support now, and then we can look at what the future holds as well.
Yeah. So we'll definitely put you in contact with Ms. Carver to kind of future funding and see if the CDBG can accommodate you in the future.
Appreciate that.
Any other question? Go ahead, please.
So not necessarily a question, more of a comment. As I look around the room and see these young men, definitely remind myself of me. And then I think about where would I be if I didn't have that sense of community that you've all provided for them. I look at your shirt right there, and it doesn't say Mohawk Belmont. It says Schenectady Belmont. So I do not think you are here asking for anything. That name on your chest, you are here as a partner. And if you are functioning in this city and you are identifying a need, that is nothing to say that the needs of other youth are any less than, or saying it's different. And if you're highlighting that they're less fortunate, and I imagine some of your parents aren't here because they're still working, or there's childcare issues. My two young ones are at home right now. And there are things that certain families have to accommodate that others don't. And I think when we talk about comparing our upbringing and our experiences, and I think that gets away from the true point of you presented yourselves with an ask, and you shouldn't be penalized because other programs have not. So I am here to say we figure out how to meet this ask. I recognize that this is a collective discussion, and although other individuals around this table might not feel comfortable with that, I think we need to get close. Actually, no, I do not think we need to get close. Because as we have police officers here in this room, there are other tangibles that giving these young men and young women something positive to do, it not only protects their idle time and of now, you are then providing them that sense of community and ownership in this program where they're the ones coming back investing into this, and you give people a reason to stay in the city of Schenectady and not feel like they have to leave. So with that, I definitely think it is a challenge. It is a difficult conversation whenever we talk about money, but if you expect me to sit in a conversation where we're making considerations for homeowners to a tune of $17,000 in 2022, $23,000 in 2023, and $13,000 in 2024, I see all of that as potential money that could have went to this program, and that is not to say that the issues and needs of homeowners are less than our youth. But as you just heard from this young man, if we do not invest in them now, when do we?
Can I say something?
Excuse me, if you're going to speak, can you need to hold your microphone?
Sorry.
No problem.
I feel like Belmont is a beacon of light for a bunch of underserved children. They need that help. I'm a father I'm a family of 6. I come out of my own pocket for kids. I don't have it like that. But for them to play, I'll do that. I feel like we gotta take this serious. Last meeting, you guys were in here talking about the Blue Jays. The Blue Jays have 3 fields. We don't have a field to even practice on, let alone. You're talking about cricket. I don't know anybody who plays cricket, or even at a national level, playing cricket, respectfully. That has nothing to do with anybody. But if there's a means for them to have this, we came here before when we were going to Florida. We got $100 from you guys.
No, that was personal. Donation.
That was a personal donation.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry about that. Appreciate you.
But if you don't want my help,
No, I appreciate it. But we got more help outside of the county and outside of the city. And what is the message we're sending to the youth if we're doing that? They mean nothing? I would want you all right now to look in their face and tell them they mean nothing, if that's what it is. Come on, we gotta do better. Schenectady has to do better. I love Schenectady, but I'm eventually gonna move out if there's no help. I can't do it all by myself. We can't all do it by ourselves. We can't. We need help. This is the ask right now. That's all I want to say. Sorry about that.
Okay.
I also wanted to say on that, besides, what you're hearing from people here today, which are multiple extremely compelling reasons, as far as like what we're looking at this as a cost, where we should be looking at this as an investment, because the research it's pretty clear that this type of investment, that dollar circulates a community 4 times more than other dollars before they end up leaving the community. Then you also have to look at that these are protective factors for youth who otherwise might have that idle time, and then we start to save on our public safety dollars and our police and fire, our other community agencies that are service providers. We start to save on that resource, because Belmont, again, is not just about throwing a football back and forth. This is with the most organic level of youth and mentorship and family and community building, one of the best examples that we have in our community. So I just also we should recognize that as well. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Go ahead, please.
I just have a question for Mr. Farley. Where would you get the money from the budget?
So we have. First of all, I definitely open that up to the council. That's not a decision I can make unilaterally. But if it was, I would certainly say that let's look at what is left in our ARPA funds. And if I will draw the attention back to our committee meetings that we had, where I was adamant about let's make sure that we are funding our youth services line more than what it is. It was at the time was $150,000, and I pleaded with the council to make that to bump that to $300,000. So therefore, things like this, when people come to us with a proven product, a proven track record, build a community inside of our city, and keeping our youth safe, that we could provide them with the support we need. So where I would see us, we have a couple options, I believe, that are on the table now. And me personally, I wouldn't be against even looking at our general fund to make sure that we give the youth what they need. So, did you have any other, anyone else have any options around where we could get this funding from?
We did talk about the $150,000 line in the budget, and then we talked about $108,000. It was that we did an amendment late last year. That is with Cocoa House, and then we have the budget, available budget from the Safety Foundation in your package here, so the $19,000 each, and the police and fire. It is my understanding that these funds are going to be utilized, 150 and 108. Is that correct, Mr. Mayor? It's for the youth program this year.
Which line?
The 150,000 in our budget, and the 108 that we set aside under Cocoa House.
Correct. That meeting with kids in the school district, I think next Monday, to do the formal hiring for the summer. So that at that point we'll know how many kids that we're going to be able to bring on board and how much of that money would be committed over the summer. The Public Safety Foundation, those funds, there's $37,000, $38,000 that are listed as uncommitted at this point, but that funds the 518 summer program in the parks. It does the Halloween parade through the city. And if you haven't participated in that, I would encourage you to do it. I'm really surprised the number of people that come out to that. So that money is largely going to be committed for community engagement through the police and fire department, and it's targeted toward youth in terms of existing activities. And the other ones is, again, I'll know after next Monday what our commitment would be during the summer and what would be possibly left over from that. But Mr. Mazeka is trying to staff that up to the budgeted amount.
And you're speaking on both lines, the 150,000
Yes.
plus the 108?
Yes. Well, now you talk about the ones from Cocoa House. There's some in Cocoa House which I'm not fully aware of what the level of expenditure has been on those.
All right. So, Mr. Mayor, that was my question about the Cocoa House, and I think we should check with Ms. Carver as to where we are with that. The further question really around that is, I don't know, I'm not sure if we can do it at this point. We would have to, because we went to the budget to see what it said, and it said youth employment. So we'd have to look to see if we could change that description in order for it to cover this. So as the mayor said, we got an email saying that it's been expended in terms of the police and fire, and Mr. Maseka, in discussions with him, did say that he's really looking to expend the 150. So at this point in time, outside of the general budget, it looks like the 108 is the only place we can look at this moment.
So how can we get that? Can we get it from Ms. Carver in terms of what was spent on against the sign in Cocoa House?
Good answer.
Yeah.
Have that conversation right there internally tomorrow to discuss where we sit.
Okay. And that's towards the 108
Correct.
Cocoa House. Go ahead.
I just want to support that, the $150,000. Mr. Mazeka has already done his interviews. I think he's looking at 42 youth who actually then have paid summer employment. So that money is directly going to support, make sure that those youth are viably employed, learning job skills, assisting us with our recreational program for the summer. And it also will keep them engaged and involved outside of their school. It's summer, so they'll be working, I think, most of the day. But the 108, I do want to say I'd be supportive of using money from the...
Yeah, let's find out what is available against that line, and then we go ahead, please.
So the $150,000 that's now marked under our youth employment line is that was the line that I was, again, asking the council to increase during our budget for specifically this reason. I know that program line is because, I was the person who introduced that. And when I introduced it then, it was supposed to be a pilot. So we were going to look at, the success of it and then look to expand it. The first year, well, I should not to speak to the first year, but last year we didn't use the entire $150,000 in the budget, and that was the justification for not, at the time of budget conversations, of not adding to the budget. And at the time, I brought to the council to say that the money, though the money not being spent, it's not because the need isn't there. That was our own internal thing that we would have to address as far as the processes go. And now it seems like that is being addressed. And like I said, now this is going to be expended. So I don't want it to feel like we are trying to pit one program against another. We amend budgets all the time. We make amendments all the time here. So this is another opportunity, if indeed that money, the line that you're identifying, if it's not enough money there to support this, then I would urge the council to, let's put our heads together and look at how we might have to amend this budget so we can support our youth and not just say it.
Yeah, so my sentiments is exactly, Mr. Farley, that you did advocate for that last year, and that we need to look at that moving forward, absolutely. I think you had requested from every council member, I was the only one that voted against it, whatever came back to the, from ARPA would go to that line, and I think everyone agreed to that. Except me. I wanted to see what would come back and where we might need it as well. But moving forward, we really need to support our youth here in the city. I just want to say that when my girls played soccer, I personally couldn't afford the registration fee for all three on the travel league. So I became the registrar and was working with Mr. Terzi and everyone involved in the league till 11, 12 at night, registering hundreds of kids to play soccer. So I know what the struggle is. It's just that there are a lot of youth programs in the city that are struggling, and I would like for each one of them to have the same opportunity to come and present itself. Maybe they didn't know it was possible. I don't even know if there's going to be any money to fund these, but I think every organization should have be able to come and present themselves to us. Absolutely.
I agree, and I agree with that point, but I would be really careful how we frame that, because when you say, I would like for other youth programs to have the opportunity, they absolutely do. They did before Belmont did, right? They all have, so we just don't want to make it seem like we are giving any special consideration to this program. This program actually reached out and said, this is our situation and we need help. So at that time, it's in our responsibility, i.e. our ability to respond, that we do so.
Go ahead, please.
And here's my final comments. I want to caution us against looking at that Public Safety Foundation money as funds that we can dictate or determine within this room. Very much the police and fire department have long-term, ongoing expectations that they use those funds for, and when we tap into those without their input, I think it can unfortunately put other programs at risk, where this is that comparing that Mr. Farley often cautions us against doing. But very much, we often try to find like the nice way to make things work. I don't imagine this is going to be nice. And to your point, Ms. DeToro, it may feel as if we are not accommodating others, but very much as I think about the language that sits in the front of City Hall, the Black Lives Matter, it doesn't mean that only Black Lives Matter. It means that I see you, I hear you, and I'm going to do something to ensure that your living conditions don't reflect now and reflect where they should be. And I think as we take those steps in a calculated effort, the narrative is important to make sure that we never truly control that. But the hope is that the youth do. And then as they grow up and aspire to new heights, that they will be that 4 times fold investment that we will see within the city. But sincerely, we often talk about the exodus out of New York State. Not to make this conversation much longer than it is, we need to figure it out. We need to figure it out. And I'm on board with figuring it out.
Go ahead, please.
So my final comment is, as well, is that right now, it seems like the conclusion we've come to is $108,000 is the place that we would have to look. And also we should keep in mind, and we always talk about how much sports develop young people, et cetera, and so on. And this is our opportunity to do that, and we definitely also need to look forward to how we do it in years coming, and for others that come with an ask. But also, I think there should be ways, and I believe there's people within this council who can actually give advice on how to fundraise and how to get money that, so if you're, because you wouldn't necessarily always have to come to the city for the entire amount, but other ways to fundraise. So I'm not going to say anybody's name, but if the person that knows that has that ability wants to be able to assist, helping your organization to, figure out ways to fundraise. So, having, again, investing in our youth and having them grow up to be like this young man back here, it makes a difference. It makes a difference in our community, it makes a difference in our city, it makes a difference in our world. So I know it's challenging this year, we all know that. However, I don't think it's a challenge that we cannot meet.
Go ahead, Mr. Chairman. So could being that we still have to see exactly what amount of money is in that line, could we make the motion that if the money is left in that line right now, that we can move it forward? Because I'd hate to have to go through another funding cycle, so if we could...
So what I was thinking about recess finance to Monday, get the information from the mayor and the finance commissioner, and we can meet at 6 o'clock Monday. Recess the committee, meet Monday and move forward whatever number we have and move forward with allocation.
That's one way to look at it. Corporation.
I think that would be
That's the way to do it, because we don't know what the money is right now. To do a resolution, you need the budget line item and the amount of money.
So I think
we couldn't do a resolution in where the resolution would be dependent upon, if the money's there, we couldn't do that?
It needs, the finance needs the line item from where the money is going to be drawn from. So in between then and now, there may be other line items in which money may be drawn from. I don't know. So you'd be making a resolution still not knowing whether or not where the money was going to be coming from. So this way you can vote in committee on Monday to vote it out with unanimous consent if there's money available to put it on the agenda, if you have unanimous consent to put it on, because
it's going to move out of committee.
It's going to move out of committee. We wouldn't need unanimous
I'm going to
consent.
recess. That's why I'm recessing it, so that we don't need unanimous consent.
No,
We can put it on. So we just have to move it out of finance and onto the floor.
Okay.
because if you did something right now, it would be, you'd still be dependent on that report on Monday.
So let's work on getting the report from Derek and the mayor, and let's Ms. Carver, and we can meet. What time is good? 6 o'clock next Monday? I'll figure it out. I'll figure it out. You're good? Monday at 6? Monday 6?
I think so.
Finance committee?
Yes.
You're fine.
Yeah, so yes. So we'll recess, we'll meet, move it out, look at the numbers, what is available, and just, from there on we can move forward.
Okay, and being that we're just recessing, if we do look into that, and the particular line that we're discussing, and the money's not there, I still want us, to look at, possible other options, because where there's a will, there's a way, and I think that we need to...
Yeah, and that would also give the mayor has a meeting next Monday in terms of seeing what is available, any availability on that 150 line, so we'll see on that line for any availability. I guess on 150 line.
We got tons of money, right, Mr. Mayor?
Yeah, right.
We don't have tons of money.
So,
I just want to add that.
go ahead.
I just want to add that we should look at the CDBG as well, not just that 108, but...
CDBG too?
Well, 108 was the CDBG.
No, it's
No,
not.
so that was ARPA money.
Oh, that
money.
ARPA money.
Yeah.
That's what I mean. We need to look at that as well.
Well, we're going to encourage them to meet with Ms. Carver in the future to kind of like submit application, so going forward they can able to tap into that.
For CDBG.
Yeah, CDBG.
Yeah.
Go ahead, please.
Ask and answer. All set.
So I'll move that we recess the finance
Yes,
committee
that's
until Monday.
Yeah, so I'm sorry, Mr. Chairman, just so everybody's on the same page, the committee will be at 6 o'clock for a time to be determined, but before the council meeting at 7 o'clock, at which time line items where money may be available will be presented to the committee.
Yes.
The committee will then vote out a resolution where that money is coming from.
Yes.
And then unanimous consent is placing it on the agenda because it's come out of committee, but it hasn't come out of the committee before Thursday, and that's where the resolutions are. But that's where I'm reading the unanimous consent. In other words, all legislation has to be in the clerk's office by noon on Thursday. This won't be there by noon on Thursday. Therefore, in order for you to consider it on Monday night, it will require unanimous consent to be placed on the agenda.
So, but Monday, holding it to Monday night will be Monday night because it hasn't, because we don't have the information yet. But we're only talking, do we not have the capacity to find out what's left in that line within the next day or two?
I mean, that's up to the, staff, and I think what the mayor indicated earlier, he's meeting with some individuals where there may be another pool of money available. So it's not only the ARPA money, but there could be another pool, and that we don't know that until Monday.
Under the 2025 budget. So that's why I can't factor in that. Because of the mayor's meeting Monday, we can recess Monday at 6 o'clock at night. All right. Any other question?
Let's make a motion to recess.
You have a second. Recess on Monday, 6 p.m.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Thank you. Any other business? I'm sorry. Thank you. I'm just going to close it. Shut myself down.
I'd like to call to order City Development and Planning, and we have 5 items on the agenda. The first item, we'll just wait for...
Let me pass my class here.
Even that's what made it seem like a chance for a meeting.
All right, so we're in City Development and Planning. No, we can't close the door, there's nothing in executive session.
No, there's
All right, we're in City Development and Planning. And the first item on the agenda, as I understand it, is being removed by Mr. Wallen. Okay. Yes. You've found other ways to do that, is that correct? You're going to be doing something different than on item 1? Come on up. Just want to... You can stand now. Yes, imagine that. Well, you don't have to do that. You can do like this. What do you think?
No, we had this on there. We talked with department heads and our architect, and we'd like to see if there was another option that we can do. We do want to preserve the Woodlawn Park roof. I have gone to the Woodlawn Neighborhood Association. They are interested in preserving the building, but that kind of investment in the building is something that we're trying to lower just to make sure, because that's a lot of money to make into the roof of the building for the limited use that it does have. So there's no huge urgency with it, so we're going to try to reevaluate what else we can do.
Thank you. Item number 2 is the Kings Road weight limit posting up at 8 tons. I brought this before.
Yep.
To the last committee meeting, Mr. Wallen has looked into it and figured out how to bring resolution to this.
Yeah, so the road was not posted. We all know that it was not posted. However, we did some research, myself calling the county, who owns Kings Road on the other side of the bridge, and the town of Rotterdam, who owns High Bridge Road on the other side of the bridge, and they have it signed on their side for 8 tons. I believe the article, I saw some article with the names, and I didn't recognize the names in the article that was forwarded about it, so I believe they were either county or town people. But regardless, looking at it, it does make sense for me to recommend that we post Kings Road with an 8-ton limit to say local traffic only, because if we were to not have that and direct vehicles down Kings Road, when they get into Rotterdam, there's literally nowhere for them to go because their roads are posted. The second you get into Rotterdam, you can't use High Bridge, or you technically can't use Kings. So if we post at Albany Street, Kings Road, 8-ton weight limit, local traffic only, that would make us kind of in cooperation with our neighboring municipalities.
Yes, Ms. Patrick.
I just was wondering, based on the discussion at the, I think it was at the Neighborhood Association, that company that...
Yep, Badger.
Yeah, so with the 8 tons,
They would be able to use, that would be the local traffic.
They would be able to, okay.
Yep.
Any other questions? Yes, Mr. Ryan.
Madam President, just and for the city engineer, this will require a public hearing. We're going to have to amend the table of weight limit roads, just like one-way roads, weight limit roads are in the ordinance, so.
Can we do that here? Can we change this to a call for public hearing?
Yeah, we
Yes.
can do that tonight and call a
Yes.
public hearing for 2 weeks out, and it'll be, and then after the public hearing, then there'll be the ordinance change to add that portion of the road. What portion, my follow-up question is, what portion of the road from where to where?
Yeah, so it would be from Albany Street to city limit.
Okay, thank you.
The entire one.
Yes.
Any other questions or concerns? All right, so at this point in time, I'm going to call for a public hearing to change this.
So,
Second. All's in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Item number 3 is just a reminder of this public hearing for the redirection of a portion of Chrysler Avenue from a two-way street to a one-way street from the intersection of Crane and Main Streets to Ostrander Place, and the public hearing will be happening on June 9th. Okay. The item number 4 was to reassess year-round alternate side of the street parking policy. Mr. Farley?
Thank you, Madam President. So I've been hearing a lot, I'm sure you guys have often, people have been reaching out, talking about why they have to change their side of the street when they're parking from this time to this time. I know some people are working like overnight shifts. When they get out of work, they get home at this hour, and then they're going to bed, but then they'd have to get up an hour or two later to switch sides. And I was, my initial thought was, the alternative side parking. I was thinking that the primary function of that was be for like winter when we're trying to clear streets and things of that nature. So I was wondering, I don't know when's the last time we looked at that as a city, so I kind of wanted to just look at that and have a discussion around, like, is that something that we need to maybe reassess and say, like, maybe this only happens during the winter months, unless there's other functions of it that we need to keep in place for all year round. So it was just my thoughts.
Right. So I know that Mr. Wallen and the police department are here as well to
I can elaborate.
All right, come on up.
I'm short enough, so I don't have to. There we go. Hello. So, as you guys probably know, I work in the traffic division, part of the promotion. And so there's actually a lot of important reasons that alternate side parking exists outside of Office of General Services. Yes, trash collection makes it more convenient. Street sweeping obviously is another benefit. Really, when we look at it, alternate side parking, there's a variety of reasons that the police sort of use that to our advantage. One of it, believe it or not, is there's a potential for crash reduction for sure. That when the parking enforcement is we're adhering to the signage, we can actually reduce crashes. So we know that unconditionally. The other thing is for emergency services, fire trucks especially. It's probably very, very difficult, if not impossible, to get maybe 2 apparatus through, or an apparatus in a police car. The other thing is that when we go out there and the parking enforcement goes out there, not just the parking enforcement, but when the patrol officers are ticketing in the overnight hours, there's a benefit actually in reduction in crime, if you can believe that. It's sort of this broken windows theory that we kind of adopt, where if we look at the small things and the public takes note of the small things that we're looking at, they're less inclined to commit bigger infractions. So there's a lot of different things that go into parking other than just parking. Let me see some of the other things. Yeah, just to improve traffic flow. We also have, if it were both side parking, there's a likelihood of increasing pedestrian crashes. The trouble is, especially for the youth, they're small, and by the time they get beyond the car that's already there, they're already into the traffic anyways, and perhaps a crash could occur that way. So that's just a perspective from the police department. Yep.
I just want to clarify that the ask is not to create 2-sided parking. That's
okay.
not, the ask is does one-side alternate parking still make sense in the way that it's done? This side for these hours versus this, and then moving over there for the other, for the different hours? That is the real discussion here. So I just wanted to clarify that, because you talked about emergency vehicles and all that. We're not, the ask is not, can we make this cheap parking on both sides?
Okay.
All right, so.
Yeah, so
Excuse me. Patrick
I was
had a
just
hand up.
wondering, given some of the considerations and knowing what it's like to drive down streets where there is no alternate side of the street parking, whether we should be considering increasing alternate side of the street parking in the city. I mean, has that ever come up at all?
Well,
I know it's very difficult to drive on the streets where, there's parking on both sides, on many of the streets that are narrow.
It's a super interesting question. Chief Clifford and I spoke about it. Really, if we wanted to get a deep dive into it, I think analysis of parking in general would be a good idea. But it's funny, as I'm going through this job and you learn, I have great ideas that my forefathers employed, but for a reason, right? And so if we look at parking around the boulevards, Glenwood, Parkwood, I think it's 2-hour parking. And the reason was, at least as I understand it, is it gave residents a chance to park, but even more importantly, I think it prohibited the staff from Ellis Hospital, the school districts from parking there for an extended period of time. So that's why I'm very cautious about making any concessions towards the parking. I don't know if we don't know what we don't know, right? And I wouldn't want to make let's say knee-jerk reaction, but a reaction that we don't fully understand the implications of. Right off the bat. The other thing about the alternate side parking is that it gives us an opportunity to sort of identify vehicles that have been there for long term. I suspect that they could potentially abuse the on-street parking if it wasn't alternate side. In other words, they can park their vehicle there and leave it there for extended periods of time, and you sort of have these abandoned vehicles that potentially, could be a problem, especially in the winter. But the alternate side alleviates that for us now, because obviously it sticks out like a sore thumb. You ticket it 2 days later. If it's still there, you can enforce the abandoned vehicle.
We're not trying to do it alternate. We're not trying to do away with it. Just trying to see if the way it's being done now makes sense. The timing of it. So not trying to say, because you mentioned the street cleaners, that's important when they come, that they're able to get through. You mentioned the garbage trucks. So not trying to say, let's do away with it, because that would cause a problem in vehicles that stay there forever. But just trying to say, does the timing of when people have to move the vehicles still make sense in the way it is? And I guess my question now, I'm going to get to Mr. Farley, is when is the last time that we did reassess the timing of it? Now, this is what my understanding of it is, that part of how we determined the alternate parking when General Electric was a major employer in the city of Schenectady, and the shifts that people worked, dictated, when they came and went in terms of parking. That's, anecdotally, that's what I was told. I don't know how they came, if that's what they came to, but that was part of my understanding. Mr. Farley?
Yeah, thank you, Madam President. You did hit on some of the points that I wanted to raise. I think so. To your point, sometimes we don't know the wisdom and why decisions are made until we kind of start to look into them. So that's kind of what the point is here. I also know sometimes sometimes we do things because that's just how they've always been done. And sometimes that can, stifle innovation and even create, problems that we're not recognizing that we would be able to alleviate if we kind of took a closer look at things. So again, the point as far as the safety point that you bring up, and some of the other reasons, right now cars are parking on either side. They're parking on either side of the street. So on this street, they're either parking on this side or they're parking on that side. And so to kind of echo what President Porter was saying, this isn't about saying now you can park on both sides, because there's so many streets that you just can't do it on. It would just say you wouldn't have to move your car when you get off work Monday night. You don't have to when coming Monday morning from work, you don't have to get up and then move your car an hour later to the other side of the street. Is there another way to do that? So you wouldn't prevent safety vehicles from making their way through, but it's just the alternate parking place. And then are we doing it at the right time? do we need to kind of get some more information from people in the community as to like what they would like to see happen? Or, like, that's what we're trying to get.
I get it. You know, and those are, I don't know that I would have that information, again, without a study. I think we can speak kind of anecdotally, but, you know, it is an interesting time because since COVID, right, a lot of folks aren't going to work anymore. So I don't know, I shouldn't say going to work, but they're working from home, working remote. I don't know. You know, I guess I'd like to add that, you know, I think about when GE was in full swing, we had 40,000 employees. I think the city population swelled close to 100,000, right? If we're around 70,000 now, I believe we can make it work. Right? I don't know, that's my 2 cents.
Did you want to speak to it at all?
I mean, on the OGS side, I think PD hit it a little, with the alternate side parking. We do get to schedule our street sweepings alternately. You get catch basins on one side of the road, vehicles never move, everything gets trapped there, the trash gets there, the leaves get there. We can't get in there and sweep until there's a complaint that, well, the catch basins aren't taking the stormwater no more. We got to hold it or post it to move your car so you're going to sweep. So what we do is we plan sweeping based on alternate side parking. One day we're doing it, the other day we're doing it a different day. So there is an advantage. We do schedule work because we know the streets that are alternate. So if we're going to do curb work or pothole work, we know we can go down this street and do the right side today. And we do the left side some other time. If it's always one side, then we're going to have resources go out and post that street and have everybody move. And hopefully some don't move over and the other ones stay in one place because now you're trying to get by 2 cars. So there are some advantages when we're looking at how we're doing our maintenance on our streets with regards to street sweeping or repairs or curb work or even tree work. We know the streets that we can go in and do some work on because nobody's on that side. And again, the exception would be winter where, you know, there should be alternate side parking all the time, you know, from November 15th to April 1st because it just makes our work easier to be able to do alternate side parking. So, you know.
Again, we're not trying to do away with it, just trying to figure out if the timing works.
Trying to accommodate people's work schedules, and that's different for everybody. So, you know,
not necessarily just like individual work schedule. Obviously, we couldn't do that. It's just one of those things that when people are bringing to the council saying like this, you know, this doesn't make sense. So my question then goes, okay, well, is there a better way to do it? You know, like in
better time, the data.
Yeah, is there a better time? Is there a better? Yeah, pretty much. Is there a better time to move it? Is there a different mechanism we use to decide on what side people are on what side, or is it
currently? Isn't it 9 a.m.?
No, I think it's 9 a.m. I think it's 9 a.m.
Yeah, probably going back, you know, when our forefathers were doing it. We started work around 7:30, so 9 a.m. crews were out working. You know, so you know that side of the street was vacant. You know, if you did it, you know, I mean, there's always one side of the street or the other that might be open, but you know, on the OGS side, that's what we look at. You know, street sweeping, different things like that. So, without a study to say what's the best time of day to do it. You know, is it 5 at night? Is it noon? I don't know.
So what would it take to reevaluate?
The study.
An engineer.
Where is the engineer?
He's behind it. So, Mr. Wallen, could you give us a little bit of insight into that? What would it take for us to try to reassess this?
Hire another engineer.
So, or could you come up? So, outside of hiring another engineer, I know that sometimes you use consultants to do this work.
The consultants are managed by myself, and myself does not have enough time to do this. So do we have another alternative? This is just another request made by the council that is just, do we have a list of these requests that I can, like, this is just adding up a lot of requests.
Hold on, Mr. Wallman. Let me be very clear. This is not just another thing that the council's adding on. What we're doing is listening to what people are saying to us and being responsive, and we're asking the questions. The answer might, hold on please for a second. The answer might be, hey, this doesn't work for the reasons that you're saying, or the answer might be, oh wow, we didn't think about it like that, maybe this worked. But it is our job to ask these questions. So I appreciate your frustration. You know I'm a very big fan of the work you do, but I wouldn't want you to characterize me bringing this up as something, just another thing from the council. I don't think that's fair.
So, okay. Okay.
Mayor first.
The mayor. Okay, I didn't see your
Why
hand.
don't you just take the individuals who've contacted you, forward that to Chief Nowicki. He can do the initial evaluation and see if there is some scenario that would compensate for what their awkwardness is, the inefficiency, the timing of it.
Yeah, I definitely could do
So
that.
send that, start that as the, and he can, usually what prompts this also is not the timing, it's when somebody gets a ticket.
That part.
The reality is there's a little bit of soft enforcement in that first hour, hour and a half, and usually the enforcement doesn't take place till the time is clearly changed, or the cars are creating a hazard if the street becomes too narrow or they haven't moved back and forth, or you get blocked driveways that are too close to a fire hydrant or something else.
So, Mayor, should he say the names of the individuals or the streets that are involved as opposed to an individual?
Well, the individual, do they need it? Do they want it changed an extra hour? Do they want it a certain day of the week? It's just, without dealing with the specifics, it's hard to say, how does it, when you do the alternate side parking to the use of the side of the street that has fire hydrants on it, creates more angst when parking's on that side because there aren't as many parking spots on that side. And so people park, they're happier on the other side, and when you move it to the side with the fire hydrants, somebody doesn't have a space to park. And when the city had 100,000 people, some of the modes of transportation were still by horse. And so we didn't quite have as many cars. And so the whole dynamic has shifted. We've got less people, but we have a lot more cars.
We sure do. It was Mr. Williams, Ms. Patrick, Mr. Toro, and we'll come back to you. Go ahead, Mr. Williams.
So definitely, I think our next step is the parking analysis. I hear, and I had the opportunity to shadow Mr. Wallen. Definitely, he raised another question of staffing levels in the city. Truly, if there are struggles with maintaining what is, adding on has an impact, and I can respectfully hear everything you said, and I appreciate Mr. Farley for having his context. I do want to add that a part of it is just being responsive to the driver's concerns. Additional impacts that I've heard is how does parking read out in reality to members of our community, where people are taking public spaces and saying, this is mine, we cannot park in front of my house, and you can't make that claim on a public road. So as we are dealing with all these questions and comments, I do think it is a requirement to be responsive. How we respond to that is important. And sincerely, Mr. LaFont, I don't think justifying the street sweeping and the potholes is a strong argument just because there are people that I move my car every week. Potholes still there, and that is an anecdotal comment, but sincerely, I think we need to take into consideration its impacts in 2025. And how that looks like, I don't know, it's a conversation, but I think we do have to start with this discussion.
Ms. Patrick?
I think, I just want to reply to that. I think that we really have to take into consideration the street sweeping, the garbage, et cetera. I think those things are really important as well as the public safety pieces. So, I think it's important.
Without doubt. So I just want to be clear, Mr. LaFawn, that street sweeping is based on the alternate parking.
Well, we know what days we can go on that street and do that side of the road or not do that side of the road. Correct. And then after storms, right after a storm, to clear catch basins, we'll know if, street X, we can do the right side, because catch basins are on that side. Some streets don't have catch basins on one side of the road, some have them on both. So it does work to our advantages sometimes.
Okay. And so, in terms of the street sweep, it doesn't have anything to do with the garbage collection schedule then?
No, street sweepers is a separate schedule.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Troy?
I think the bigger issue is the amount of, as the mayor said, the amount of limited parking and the amount of, as I've said plenty of times, the Schenectady 2 family, which is now the Schenectady 4+ family. So at the time, years ago, each family may have had one car, so you're talking about 2 cars on the street. Now you're talking about one unit that has 4 units in it, and everybody's got a car, maybe their kids, so now there's just, I don't believe, enough parking on our roadways for the amount of cars and the amount of people living on their street. I live on Wendell Avenue. There's no parking on my side of the street between Union Street and Union Avenue. And it's a constant battle for placement of individuals. So again, whether it's alternate parking or not, there's just not enough room for people to park anymore on any street. So, especially in our neighborhoods. And as far as alternate sides, yeah, we get a couple of complaints here and there. We have to get up and move our car. But most of the time, what I hear is, I like when it's on my side of the street because then I go shopping and it's in front of my house. Versus, other side of the street, I have to worry about crossing the street to my house. So, again, I think there's just a lot of cars in our city now, which is a good thing.
It's fact. People have lots of cars.
Yep.
That's true. So,
If I may, I'd just like to add just one bit of information for you guys.
Sure.
So I know you guys get tons of complaints. I know I've spoke to you about some of the parking complaints that come with increased enforcement. But what we probably don't hear about, I get calls all day, every day to the traffic division, and we actually get a lot of calls of people saying, thank you for finally doing this. Thank you for being here. And they're actually appreciating that we're enforcing it in the alternate side parking and the hours. And I haven't asked them, but it's a benefit to them in some way, enough that they actually call us and say thank you. So something that's useful information for them.
Mr. Rowley?
First, I'd like to say, honestly, Officer Dalton and I have never disagreed on parking ever. That's never been a thing. So that's a good thing. But to the mayor's point around, like, at one time, there were more horses than there were cars. That's in the spirit of which this conversation is being brought up, is that if we look at our city code, some of those things are outdated so much. I think that they probably were when we did have horses, and I think that what we want to do is to look at what we have. Is it working, and not be afraid to say, could it be working more effective? And just not be so committed to things just because the way. And we often might find that there's a lot of good reasons and there's a lot of wisdom into how decisions were made in the past. But to the mayor's point in mind is that as things change, we do need to revisit these things to ensure that we're being responsible and maybe having the best before. That's what the point of the conversation is. So I'm thinking, I welcome, ideas around maybe we'd start with those, with the streets that people have been vocal about and get their feedback on that and go from there.
I think that's reasonable since our city engineer said that it doesn't have the capacity to do a citywide reassessment. So,
just to be clear though too, I think the easiest thing to do is I think we're misunderstanding what a citywide reassessment is. It's a very large task. You would go through the streets, and I think Chief Nowicki said it, that the way that the streets are situated, right, the way that the parking is was mostly made by people around this table prior to us, our forefathers. Maybe it didn't make sense, maybe it was done because someone got a ticket. So then when we hire a consultant to look at the map and try to make sense of it, they're going to have a lot of questions and they're going to wonder why anything. So what they're going to look at, right, is they're going to look at all the streets in the city, 171 miles. Then they're going to look at widths. Then they're going to look at the type of street. Then they're going to look at what's on the street. Is there a school? Is there a hospital? Is there something that takes up parking? So I think that if the council would like to do that, I could get some costs for what this would cost. People are out there that do things like this, and then you would put it in the budget, because this is something that I don't know where I would, pull $20,000, $30,000, $40,000, $50,000 out of to study the citywide parking. I mean, they would have meetings with the police, we'd have meetings with the fire department, we'd have meetings with the mayor, OGS. This isn't something that you just do. Now, to the mayor's point, if we're looking at 2 streets, and that's all we want to focus on, then that's a completely different thing. But that was my frustration, was to just say, what would be great right now is if Chris could do a parking study You know, that means that it's a big task. It's something that we have to do, and it's something that I don't have in my budget to do a citywide assessment of parking stuff.
And just to be, and you said it's 171 miles, but not every street in the city is alternate parking, so it would be a little bit less.
And I see, but that's where you're gonna get into a little gray area though. I mean, because are you really looking at only alternate side parking areas? Or would you look at all the parking areas? I would think that you want to look at all parking areas because, you know, what we just heard was it would be better if some streets were alternate side parking that are one side parking because it would be more beneficial. So once again, if we focused and you just want to say those streets, but I think that those streets were most likely deemed alternate side parking for a political reason more than an engineering reason. So then we're singling out streets based off of non-engineering decisions. We're asking an engineer to make a justification on that. Engineers don't like things that don't make sense. I've talked about the weight limit map. The weight limit map makes no sense. That chart that we have in the city, it makes no sense. So we need to look at it and then come to you and say, why does this map there? It doesn't make any sense. And the engineering predecessor said that it was more of a complaints of trucks, complaints of this. So we, change things. So I would say if we're going to do it, you do it. Now 171 miles, they don't all have all parking. We want to maybe focus on certain areas and do it more holistically, because if you're going to do a parking study and not look at the area around Ellis Hospital, I think that were the area around the high school or some of the other schools, I think that would be a mistake.
If I could just add one last thing too, I think it is important that we hear from those individuals, because I think we perhaps can do a better job of maybe either updating the signage or increasing the signage. If it's one street in particular, I know one street, there are signs out there that say no parking this side from 1 a.m. to 6 a.m. If that's the problem, and we're not street sweeping there, and I'm not speaking for Mr. LaFond, we may be, but if that's the case in point, it's a simple sign change and everybody's happy. So I guess to the point I'm trying to make is that if I can field these phone calls, and I encourage them to call, reach out, or email me and tell me specifically what the street is and what their concern is, this may be an easy fix, I guess is what I'm saying. Thank you.
And I'd like to believe that decisions are made on engineering things and not politically, that we're doing it just based on what's good enough for the city. Oh, well, that's right, we're not talking about us. So, as the mayor stated that, and Sergeant? Lieutenant?
Assistant Chief.
Assistant Chief. So you got that promotion, just to get that right. Has stated we should look at the streets, because I also have, someone reach out to me regarding where they live. So, we should look at those streets and start there. And
I just want to really quickly say that I'm sorry, Mr. Turk, did you want to add something? No. Oh, okay, good. So what I was saying is that, what I wanted to say was that I'm not in any way suggesting that we change, everything around for an individual person. I just want to be clear about that. But what we can, if we do look at the individual streets and there is a theme here that, this works here, then it might be a practice that we look to move and expand. I think that's a fair way to start.
okay.
Thank you.
So, at this point in time, and this is for everyone, then if you're getting concerns from individuals regarding alternate side parking, and I'm not, whether it's being enforced or observed, I'm not really sure, because I see signs, sometimes I'm driving down the street and I see signs on both sides, but I also see cars on both sides. So I'm like, okay, people aren't really observing that, but there's still room to move forward. So at this point in time, you would provide to the mayor's office and to Assistant Chief Nowicki the streets that you're speaking about.
Yeah.
And that goes for everyone, and I will do that as well. And we'll take it from there. Is there more that you would like to see us move forward on, Mr. Farley?
No, I think that's a pretty good place to start, Madam President.
Just with the budget coming up,
What
if you would or would like me to get what a parking study would cost.
So that's a question for the council.
I think the more information you have, the better, the cost, but I don't know what that entails.
So I think getting the cost would be great. Doesn't mean we would have to do it.
No,
but
it
we
would
certainly
be
have
a
to.
cost.
So getting the cost would be.
Yeah, well, I've contacted a group of engineers who probably have done this before and asked them what an approximate cost would be, just so I can have that for our budget time.
Including the concerns that were voiced by the police department, OGS.
Chris and I will be in contact, because what I'll do is, if I don't handle the calls myself, they'll go to the traffic division, but somehow we'll keep a log or a record of the concern. So it's not anecdotal, it's a time, date, and place. Forward to Chris, and we can work with it. If after all this, we don't get a single concern, I'm not sure that, it's worth proceeding, but that's my own.
That'd be nice.
Okay. Any other questions? Okay, well, thank you all for your input. Appreciate you coming. The next item is a ceremonial resolution for Caribbean American Heritage Month. Mr. Mutuveri.
Thank you. June is recognized as the National Caribbean American Heritage Month, and I'm asking the council once again to pass a CR to recognize the Caribbean American community.
I'll second. All in favor?
Aye.
All right, that was easy. I would want to add one other thing to the agenda. I apologize, but Juneteenth is coming up in June as well. And so I'd like for the council to have a ceremonial resolution for observing Juneteenth.
So moved.
Second.
All's in favor?
Aye.
Thank you very much for that. And I have nothing else to come before City Development and Planning, and I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
All's in favor?
Aye.
We're adjourned. Have a good evening, everyone. So I have a new fancy thing.
Yeah, I'm going to send this to you.
Oh, so that's just to hold it, so it's not lying on the table? I'm guessing.